So yeah, this is Mihai Kulczar. Yeah, let me share my desktop with everybody. That way you guys can. Well, yeah, I'd rather them see my desktop. So yeah, there we go. Software defined radio. Yeah, this is like a quick thing. Yeah, here we go. All right. I've spent like a little bit of time on this, mostly from necessity. It's, usually when I play with this kind of stuff, I'm like, it's more like for my own personal need. If I find like a direct use for it, then I'll play with it. So, yeah. And I guess here's the need. I kind of had like how to keep track of usage for utilities in the house. For a while, I was going out and, every other day or something would like write down. I had like a little smartphone app and would just plug in like the numbers. But that kind of got old. And then, interestingly enough, I found an article, someone talking about, the privacy issues of these meters that leak this information all the time. I mean, they just like put it out in the air, radio nonstop, your usage, like what the meter reading is. And then I was like, why don't I look into that to get my readings instead of walking out and reading the meters by hand? So that's where I kind of started looking into it, and I found this, like the SDR stuff, and let me see here. Well, that's it. It's kind of like what it looks like. I mean, it's like a 25 bucks piece of hardware from online retail stores. So yeah, that's kind of like using it. Now, if you look online, there's a lot of like most of the stuff is like Windows based. So all the software, it's like install it in Windows. So I kind of had like a weird time setting it up. But here, let me try this. I'm sorry? Will it run under Wine? No, it actually, it's recognized under Ubuntu. And here, I've got a few, let's see, virtual machines. So let me minimize this. So, I mean, this is just like I got a couple of VMs running on my machine. You guys can see them. Like, there's like, this one is just a basic, Ubuntu 16.4 VM, and I've got basically my USB controller. I have the SDR card here for you guys that are not in Colombia. It's just plugged into my laptop. So, well, actually, I'll just log in through. So, I mean, I'm SSHing to the other virtual machine. So I got two virtual machines running. This is a desktop. The other one's just like a regular plain old Ubuntu server. So, when you plug it in, it's like even physically or through mapping it as a virtual thing, it kind of comes up like the Realtek semiconductor. And I'm guessing this is what RTL stands for the SDR stuff. So yeah. So looking through it, I was kind of like, okay, how do you get this going on a Linux machine? And there's an package in the Debian repository or apt repository that's called RTL-SDR, and you install it, and you have access to your SDR stuff. So these are, let's see. There you go. This is about what kind of you have to do. The apt install RTL-SDR, and that gives you like a package that can read the USB device, and like a utility that basically opens up a port and starts. It's kind of like a server, and once you connect to that port, you can read kind of like what the device sees or hears on through radio. So let me connect all the wires here for my so, and then if you look at like the second, that's basically like a GitHub project that someone wrote. That's like it takes whatever the SDR radio picks up and I guess creates a ASCII stream with the readings that it gets on a certain frequency. So here, let me just put the antenna there. Poke Ben in the eye. Yeah, it's like I got it with the when you order your RTL-SDR, that's what it came with. This and like a smaller antenna. So I mean, it comes with like a tripod and all that stuff. So.
What frequencies is that?
Honestly, I didn't look into it much because I mean, like I said, my need was read my meters and have it, so I don't have to walk around. And then I moved to a new house and I discovered that, my water meter, my electric and gas meters, they all put out radio. It's like I kept seeing the truck drive by. Every month, it's like a truck drives by, either with SENG or like the local, like the Lexington tank truck. Sorry? Was there a question?
No.
Okay. So, yeah, but let's see. Let me show you guys kind of how the whole thing looks. So in order to start this is basically RTL, TCP, and
We're not seeing that.
it should refresh soon. Or
Yeah.
okay. So, and I mean, you can give it a port number. Let me give it like a. Okay. I guess I got it wrong.
Is the screen bigger?
Yeah.
Oh, Control Plus, I think.
I don't know. Let's see. Is
I go for words,
Yeah. Let's see. Maybe I can do this. And no, use the.
Oh yeah.
Use the Windows
Awesome.
magnifier. Anyway. Cheating, yeah. So, I mean, at this point, basically, And this RTL TCP command came with that package when I installed it. And you just run it. And basically, I think, my understanding of it is it connects to the USB, and basically just everything that it reads, it'll put out on that port. Yeah, well, right now it's tuned to that, but I'm thinking you'll see, because now you kind of have to have another client, that you connect to this server, that you listen to on 6543 port, and you can send it commands to actually listen on a certain frequency. So you can change it through TCP, through a TCP connection.
Is there a scan function?
I would think. I didn't really look much into it because, I mean, you can find scanners, you can find all kinds of, yeah. It's just that, I guess my scope was kind of like limited to, this is what I want to do with it. So, but yeah, that's, yeah. So let me. Okay. All right. So I'll just. That's not what I wanted. So let's see. Oh. All right. So let me log in again to that virtual. Like open another terminal, and there's like the other I guess command that I showed you, like the other stuff that you like, this RTL AMR, like that's like to do a meter reading soft, like software. Yeah, automatic. Yeah. So that's kind of, it's like that's Go code, and you just again install it. That's basically the command you install. You use. I used it installed kind of like in a this local Go code folder for me. Let me see here. I got lazy. This is like a virtual I just set up for this demo. But yeah. What was it? RTL AMR. Server. 6543. So, I mean, for those that don't, let me zoom in a bit. So really what's kind of going on now, I started a new terminal, and basically what I did is, you can see it's like that RTL AMR, connected to the server on the port, like localhost. And this is basically what it's reading right now in the room. Like these are like whatever electric meters or this is something that's around here that basically is putting out consumption. So
have you figured out the type numbers?
The type numbers are not really. I found like someone tried to put them under types, like these types are water and these types are electric and these types are gas. But then when I looked at home, my water goes under a type of electric. So I think it's, I don't know if there's like a specific set, because my water is a type 7 or 8 at home. And I've seen other electric meters that are 7 or 8. So, so there isn't like a.
Well, I mean, this protocol should be well known. I think you can find it on the net somewhere. I mean,
but
according to that
probably,
article that you read, they said the information was publicly available for decoding this.
yeah,
And so they were saying how far they could read the meter, which was basically about I think about a quarter-mile radius of where you are, that's a pretty good radius. And the only way they can do it is by correlating actual meters. You went to particle complex.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, the meter type, that's kind of like, I guess that was what was kind of harder for me to figure out is which one exactly is my meters. And that you kind of go by, I try to go by usage, because you look on the meter, there's nothing that, see, there's like this 8-digit ID that you have there. So you can kind of go like, maybe that's what it is. So you go and look at your meter. There's no 8-digit ID on there. There's no, so it's kind of like, there's like all kinds of numbers, but there isn't like an actual ID that you can tie it down to. So, I mean, even with this, I kind of went out and, took a picture of my meters and the readings, and then I went in and grabbed the hell out of a file until I found the ones that were closest. So then I was like, oh, those are my meters. So that's.
So, Mihai, quick question for you.
Yeah.
What is the unit of measurement there that we're seeing on the right-hand side, the CR?
CRC.
That's a CRC. If you look, it's sort of wrapped.
Okay.
It's like a control code. That's another thing I looked up into, and I couldn't really figure out exactly what that CRC means.
Cyclic redundancy check.
Yeah, I think it's cutting off that last C, so I wasn't sure. Sorry.
Yeah.
If it's electrical, it should be kilowatt hours.
It's watt hours, I think, for electrical, but it depends on because, with water meters, it's gallons, but, what you read on your meter physically is here. I noticed that it's like they append 2 zeros at the end on the, electronic thing. So it's like a weird thing.
Well, no,
I
water
guess.
meters read 100 cubic feet.
Yeah, but
They only care about the 100 cubic feet. So, I mean,
I'll have to take the, let me see. Let me look at the picture on my meter.
Given the actual cubic feet,
Yeah, but yeah, so I guess that's kind of how where I was and with this, and then let's see, and I guess looking more into it, I found this other sort of set of tools that someone made, like this utility monitoring, and the guy basically wrote a Python script that takes the reading like through the radio and plugs it into like a MySQL database, and does like a difference of comparison. So it's like, I mean, all of these you kind of, it's just some stuff to play around with.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's companies make a business out of it.
Yeah.
Or similar thing.
I'm pretty sure some company got good money for selling a reading system like this to, SCNG or the town of Lexington.
I've looked into getting from SCNG, and you can find the tool on Amazon for about $100, but you need to have keys, they say, to get into it, and you can't get the keys from SCNG. But if this is in the clear, which pretty obviously it's in the clear, is that you don't need any stinking keys.
Yeah, no, it's like basically this is what you see, and then I guess here this is my I cloned the repository of that, what I showed you earlier, like this guy. So he put this thing together nicely. Let me close this. And basically, I mean, it's a Python script that, I mean, let me zoom in. Stupid Windows. The one?
I thought you'd have to work harder to get the information off the air. This looks like there's
no, and I mean
encryption or nothing.
No, there isn't, and it's really kind of that I told you it's in, like I said at the beginning, that there was an article from USC that, like a local thing, that they were saying, oh yeah, you know, you can read anybody's meters. And this is not encrypted, so it's like there's no privacy. So these things just spam, you know. And USC didn't release all this information because they didn't want people going out and reading everybody else's meters and stuff like that. And
I think the thing they did release was jamming, because they started sending false information, and they did not release the results of that.
Yeah,
they did release the thing that said that they could read this thing for a quarter mile around this apartment complex, which to me is, you know, pretty good information too, because then it says you can read your neighborhood.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, anyway, I guess starting the script I was talking about. I mean, you kind of start it up, and it goes through, and it starts all of the, you know, RTL TCP and the RTL AMR, and it just reads, and basically it creates like an in-memory string of all the meters that it finds, and then it sort of writes out the differences in every time the meter number changes. It writes out the difference in a table. Here, I'll show you the table in a second.
Well, while you're waiting for that to come up, this company out in California does essentially the same thing, but they monitor your mains, and they get the total power used by the home. And then this goes into a centralized database somewhere, a server, and they analyze it in real time, and then they come back with a little report that says, oh, we see that you've got an air conditioner on there and you're running it, 13 hours a day, but your neighbor is running his 12, so maybe yours needs to have a servicing done on it or something to get it more efficient. Which, I don't mind the analysis. I don't like the comparison with the neighbors. That kind of bugs me. I don't know why.
Everybody's trying to keep ahead of the Joneses, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, so I don't have a problem with monitoring my neighbors. I don't want them monitoring me. You know how that works.
All my data belong to me.
Yeah. But yeah.
You happen to be running a grow up.
Well, I'll tell you something. A grow up does not go through the meter.
It's coming out of somewhere though. It's usually your neighbor.
Well,
Your neighbor's sitting there with a $2,000 a month power bill going.
As somebody who has family in law enforcement, that wouldn't be the comparative analysis they would make. They would say, wow, your electrical consumption is 3 times higher than your neighbor's. We're coming back with the thermal camera.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, but yeah, anyway, that's kind of like, there you go, my meter reading project for my house. Trying to, so I mean, this is the stuff that gets input into, so you can look. It's kind of like what you see is like it, gives you a consumption and stuff. So the script that I told you creates this database.
How often does a meter change?
Not often. I mean, depends. I mean, if the light's on, obviously your electric meter is going to keep going.
Well, I just wondered how often it gets the update. That thing transmits once an hour, or how often?
No, your meters, I've seen meters transmit every 5 seconds. I mean, just sitting this at home and watching it. Some meters just spam nonstop. It's like,
And the battery's supposed to last for 5 years.
Yeah, well, electric meter, think about it, it's already hooked up to the electricity. Oh my goodness. Yeah. You know, I looked at my water meter and it has wires going to it. Now, I don't know if that's just grounding for lightning or whatever, but it's got wires going to it. There's a wire going to my gas meter too. Like there's a wire. I mean, I don't know if it's.
In the old days, you ran on the phone line. I don't know if they're still doing that.
Yeah,
Obviously not.
I mean, obviously not, because I can see the readings. I mean, my whole.
Remember the power?
Yeah, I mean.
A bulb line to a gas meter doesn't sound like
No, it does not.
No. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of. See, because I was wondering that how often does that transmit, and then if it's because some meters I only saw like 2 hours a day in the morning, like early morning, and things like that, and I'm like, do they come with the truck? What if the truck doesn't come by at that time? You know, so it's like I couldn't really figure out yet, like when I've got like megs of these captures at home trying to figure out some logic.
It's probably just, I bet you that when the sun comes up, you get, there's so much stuff in the air that you lose some of the people on the fringes.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't care. I mean, I just wanted the stuff around me, and what I identified as my meters, my gas meter comes on early in the morning for a couple hours. I see it, and after that, I'll lose it for the rest of the day. You know, because I mean, I'm looking at the value, like the consumption that's on the meter. That's how I figured out which one it was. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like I guess it's still a working project, and I'm playing with it. But you know, I figured out it's cool enough to, you know, if you sit down at home and it's like you kind of want your usage by electric usage. Because the electric meters just keep spamming this stuff. So you can probably get down to like the 30 seconds or something, you know, how much power you use through the day.
Well,
So.
it's 30 seconds.
Yeah. So.
Heaven forbid the power company should do it 29 seconds.
Well, no, I mean, the meter runs all the time. This is all off the
Cash flow. Everybody were 29 seconds behind.
Well,
That would start shifting their cash. And
well, wait till you get time of day billing.
So yeah, I mean, anybody? That was kind of it with the meter.
Yeah. I don't know. Anybody here have any questions?
There are a lot of very interesting things you can do.
Thanks. All right, come on in.
The spectrum is very, very broad and very, very deep in terms of utilization. There are people using all kind of frequencies for all kind of things. And the great thing about SDR is that you can basically tune into any of it. It's just a matter of setting the right settings.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I looked and like, you know, doing this stuff, just wanted to talk more about it. But I've seen people do like, you can do like scanners, like police scanners, and I've seen, you know, not with this guy, but the Hack RF, which is a bit more powerful, you know, with a special antenna. I mean, you can get like the satellites, you know, like the NOAA and Meteor, like those like weather satellites that fly by. You can get those and download the stream of data and basically decode the pictures of, you know, what they caught flying over the.
Decoders are the key.
You know.
Picking up a signal.
Yeah.
An old shortwave radio listener from way back. I can
Wow.
tell you that there's a lot of extremely weird signals out there.
Yeah.
That, we were all
You refer to one of these?
Who?
Are you referring to one of these?
Just well,
That's,
I'm
hold
not
on.
talking about WWV or some of it, I'm sure was digital.
SDR.
Yeah, but.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Hack RF one, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, yeah, that's the like what, $100-$200 piece. I didn't spend that much money.
I got it originally launched on Kickstarter, so it was like $300-$350. Which is the cool thing to have with it, though. It's a PCB log periodic, and it has a, whenever my camera focuses and updates, it has a ridiculous spread spectral bandwidth, 850 megahertz to 6,500 megahertz.
Fractal?
If you're interested in getting one of these, Whiskey Alpha 5 Vector Juliet Bravo is the ham call for the guy who makes these, and they're dirt cheap. They're less than $10 each if you're willing to solder the pigtail.
Okay.
No, that's cool.
Did anybody see Brad Haynes' presentation at DEF CON about 6 years ago? I think he was using SDR to pick up air traffic control signals. Through that, he deduced a way to mess with the air traffic control system and inject phantom aircraft into the air traffic control system.
Oh boy, I don't want to be anywhere near that.
So the Hack RF has no hardware limitations, so you can totally do that. But needless to say, the FCC is listening way more than you think they are. I use my Hack RF at scale to listen in to LAX air traffic control when scale was at the Hilton LAX, so close to the tower that even in the middle of their concrete bunker, you could still pick it up on the Hack RF.
Okay, Mihai, if there's no more questions, we can switch over to Git.
All right, switch gears. Go to. So, all right, let's see. All right. So I mean, even this, I'll try to make it quick. About Git, I can talk a lot more, but I'm not gonna go much into how to install Git and how to, because yeah, this is yeah. All right, so I guess Git is really cool. I mean, once I discovered it, it's like the version control system I wanted to use. And I mean, it's easy to use. I mean, once you set it up, it's like easy to use, easy to, fork code, create branches, merge code from left to right. So yeah, this is kind of like how I went through, I guess, my life. First of all, I was just using folders. Then, in a corporate network, I was like, oh, here's source safe. And that was kind of like check out code and put it back in basically in a folder structure. There wasn't much to it. And Subversion, that was kind of like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then, when I started reading about Git and how easy it is and how much you can do offline with it, that kind of went, beyond. I was like, yep, that's what I'm going to use from now on. So, yeah, Windows, download it online. Unix, Linux, just, I think Ubuntu has it, like apt-get install Git, done. Yeah. And you have Git. So this is, first thing you want to do is like set up your name and like email address on your local. That's kind of like, it gives you your persona. Like when you commit code, your name and email address will be tied to those commits. So in the history, people kind of see who committed what code. So when I did this presentation, I kind of focused it mostly on how to go outside of GitHub. Because with GitHub, it's basically create an account, click create repository, and you created a new repository. And then you sort of clone that to your local, and you work with it that way. Here, let me go through this real quick. Let me close this stuff. All right. So yeah, this is just a repository I cloned, but so I'm guessing everybody kind of has a GitHub account by now. And I was showing you earlier, this is like I guess let me increase the size of this. So yeah, but yeah, this is the repository, with that Python script I showed you earlier. So, I mean, it's easy on GitHub, it's easy. You click on fork and you created a fork. And, this is basically my whole repository. And, you can get like a SSH sort of way to clone it, or HTTPS. Honestly, I like SSH because you can just use an SSH key and it doesn't ask you for passwords and things like that anymore. So, but yeah, let's see here. So, but anyway, creating a repository locally, I mean, if you want in a folder, like, or just open a folder, it's like, that's all you have to do is Git in it. And you created a repository locally, and you can start adding files to it and, working with it. This Git init bear, it creates like a repository without a checked out copy. So this is good to have like on a server or somewhere where, people won't go in and change things. Everybody connects to that. So here, let me create. How do I? Didn't even think to. Maybe I can change the font size so it'll be bigger. Layouts. No. Profiles. All right. I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, right now I got a Git repository. I mean, it's, Git creates like that .git folder, and that's basically it's where it keeps track of all the like the inner workings of your repository. So let's say I want to create a new file. you know, and I'm adding text and stuff. Yeah, git status. That's one git command that kind of gives you a status of your local repository. And, you know, let's say I want to add all my changes to the repository. Git has the concept of, like, I guess, a staging area, and it's like you kind of have multiple layers. You can have like your work in progress, a staging area, where basically you can add the stuff to, and then everything that's in staging is ready to be committed. So you can do a git commit, and you kind of do like first commit. Oh, and there you go. It tells me I didn't configure. I didn't configure my persona. You know, kind of like what I was saying earlier, that it needs to be done. Uh-huh. So now it kind of so let's see. By default, Git creates this master branch. That's kind of like the first initial branch in Git. But I mean, obviously, you can have multiple branches and stuff, and you can change the name of which you're actually working on. Other, yeah, like commands that these are like generally used commands. I showed you like git add all, git commit, git status, cloning a repository, git clone. You can either use like HTTPS or SSH. I personally prefer SSH, but you know, sometimes you don't get that access. Git log commands, these are like, it's a good way to search the log. You know, when you're like the only one working with your own code, that's kind of, your log doesn't get that big. But when you're looking at the log of, like, you know, multiple, you know, whole teams working, you know, you kind of need to have quite a few like variations of this command to search through the repository and figure out, you know, where an issue might have occurred in the code. Diff tools, these are mostly for, you know, to see changes between two, like a file between commits. Working with repositories, yeah, this is a fun one. Git has the capability of connecting remotely to multiple servers. So if you have like Git repositories that reside on like two different accounts, like, you know, you have a public Git and you have like your local corporate Git something. So it's like you can connect to both of them, and you can easily transfer code and logs between the two, and or merge, you know, pull certain commits from one repository or another, as long as they kind of share like the same ancestry. So yeah, a few command like creating a branch, git branch change. Uh, and I mean these like git reset and git clean. These are two commands I use quite a bit. I work with I guess in the corporate where I work with this stuff. We have a Subversion repository, but using the thing with Subversion is like you got to be connected to Subversion to get your updates and see the logs and all that stuff. So I kind of pulled all that down into my local and put it into a Git repository. So when I'm trying to sync them up, I've got a lot of compiled objects in my local folder. So you can use git clean, and that basically just wipes everything that's not checked into the, that you don't have changed or staged, and like that is not committed. You just do a git clean, and it just clears out all the changes and everything that are in your local. So, and that's kind of, I guess, I use it a lot because I use like beyond compare between the Subversion and my local Git repository. And when you do that, you kind of narrow the number of changes so you can easily update your copies. But yeah. What else? Yeah, one thing that just like with any tool, it's kind of like mostly what I had a hard time is like setting up a strategy on how to use it, because it's like, yeah, it's a tool and it does all this, but how do you integrate it into your like work routine so it doesn't become like another chore you just have to do during the day, to work with this thing. And what I found the easiest was to create like my own branches locally. Like, for example, there's a master branch, and I usually create like a branch that's like something that's a change, and then what I basically do is I check out my local master branch and make all my changes in it, and that way they're kind of separate from what I'm trying, like the branch that everybody else is working in. And when I'm ready to move my code, I just move my code from my local branch into the only the code I want. Because sometimes you got like your debug lines and your stuff that makes sense to you, but it doesn't really make sense to give to everybody else, because everybody has their own kind of thought process when they debug things. So the cool thing about because you can keep your own branch, and there's like a git rebase command that basically takes your branch and you can rebase it, and it'll basically overlay on top like all your commits that you did on top of another branch. So let's see. Let's say I want to add some changes here. For example, this is my best change. So you can see it's like, it's modified, and these are, it's kind of like in code, like it's like my personal changes that I'm doing to the code that I really don't want to share with everybody else. So, okay, git add all. Minus all right, so yeah, so if you look here, you see like kind of how the history went, like master, and then we got like, you know, I've got the master changes there, and those are my personal changes. So let me show you this. Git. So let's say someone comes behind me and makes changes to, you know, that file. Like, so. And you can see it's like the changes I put in there, they're on the other branch. So, you know, when I switched branches, I checked out the master branch. The changes, you know, didn't come through. So let me add some changes here. So, yeah, so kind of what happened was, let me see. I don't have GUI. All right. I was trying to see if I got like a more visually, but anyway. So, so going back to rebasing, if you see that right now I'm missing like the latest change that was done to head. I mean to master. So there's like the git rebase. You know, let's say I want the latest code from master plus my changes on top of them. So I mean, that's basically the command, git rebase master and then master change. So what this says is like, okay, I want my master changes on top of, you know, whatever is the master. And yeah, well, there's a conflict. So git. Do I have a merge still here? No. All right. Yeah. Did it do it? Oh, okay. So now. So yeah, So if you look at the, I guess it did merge them. I was wrong. So you can kind of see that once I rebased, these were my changes, like this test, and then, you know, it basically added my changes to whatever were, you know, on top of the latest master. So it's.
Does that have to be language aware? That merger? Just
No,
text aware.
it's text aware. It's like diff aware. It looks at differences. And I mean, you can, I mean, if the same line is changed in two places, obviously you'll get a conflict and you manually have to resolve it. But the change, I guess being careful changing a different line, you know, it's well aware. It's like, okay, there were, so now if you look at the log, you can kind of see that, I mean, you had the first commit, then this is the master change that I did, and once I rebased, you can see even this kind of like went on top of the change. If you look through, each commit has a SHA-1 hash attached to it, and you'll see if I scroll back through history here on my local, you'll see that this hash does not match like the the old hash was different, like 55A0D, and you know the hash changed just because. I mean, this is just like a, I guess, a blockchain type thing, you know, because it depends on it. It keeps like the hashes of the previous commit, and you know, like a hash of the actual changes that are part of the. So, yeah, I guess I confused everybody with Git at this point. I didn't. I guess I jumped around a bit. Any?
I don't do that much stuff with it.
Yeah. Well, do I still have anybody on the line? Yeah. Yeah, everybody's
If
like,
you
okay.
need help, please hang up and dial an operator.
Yeah, Outlook's still here too.
Any questions for Mihai?
One PowerPoint slide, so that's good, and that's just to show stuff. Holy moly! All right. This. Oh shoot! I did it again. All right, sorry about that. Hold on. All right, cord keeps falling out. All right, come on screen, redraw me. This is a 16 gig laptop that can't handle all these graphics. We went to the moon on 16.
That's not even enough to run Chrome.
All right. Was it?
Yeah, it was.
I think it was 16K.
The HP 35 had more power than
Yeah. Okay. All right. So.
A couple IBM 360s in there.
No,
Probably all 8K.
it was all RTL. It was primitive shit. It's probably analog like rather than digital.
All right. So this is a little ditty about Monero, and I'm gonna switch back to my browser. I don't know if y'all are seeing this. Hold on. I gotta click on me. Yeah, my Mac's gonna sleep. Okay. And share. Share. Entire screen. Yeah, that's good. All right. Are y'all seeing the Monero slide? Well, I mean, I'm talking the UC lug here.
Yes.
Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Shouldn't have done that. Okay, I'm back. And let's go back to okay. So this is kind of like how I learned about fun things like Bitcoin and Monero and all these little projects. So I used to surf on this Open LDAP site, and I noticed that one guy was posting to the site quite frequently, or not really posting. He was just answering people's questions, and he was doing it so smartly that I took notice of him, so I go to the so I start following these posts, and the guy's name is Howard Chu. Here he is right here, hyc@simus.com, and he does a lot of stuff with Open LDAP, and he actually wrote the database engine that lies behind Open LDAP and actually replaced the Berkeley database that Open LDAP had been dependent on. It's called the Lightning Memory Mapped Database, and he has all kinds of really great technical points, like here, using TempFS is a waste of RAM. Just use LMDB, the Lightning Memory Map Database, on a regular file system and let the system page cache manager take care of memory. Okay, cool. Never heard of that. That's great. This is the guy right here. That's Howard. And a recent post was he's talking about how Linux fsync is a mess, and that he had already thought about all this stuff that Postgres was just now getting around to thinking about. And he brags about that a little bit down here. So anyway, so this is all leading up to something. And he made a post about Monero, recommending that Monero as an alternative to Bitcoin. Both projects are open source, by the way, but he likes Monero, so I was okay. All right, let's go see what I can find out about it. And this is the first site I came to, Bitcoin Talk, and this is about the middle comment is just about what you're going to get with this site. It's not moderated at all, and it's just people yelling at each other. So do not go here. So then this leads me to Reddit, and then finding oh, okay, all right. There's a little bit about Monero, and here's the downloads, and blah 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 blah, and then it's got a little bit in here about they're doing a hard fork. And I'm like, okay, well, what's that all about? So this leads me to here, the Monero website. It's been live for about 4 years now, and the POW is the proof of work change, and it turns out that Monero was developed to address this a deficiency in Bitcoin that Bitcoin has, in that it tends to centralize all the money amongst a few people that are really good at mining Bitcoin, and they start talking about ASICs, or let's see, application-specific integrated circuit right here. The way Bitcoin mining has evolved is it's gone from CPUs to GPUs, because GPUs are about 100 times faster than CPUs, and then GPUs have given way to FPGAs, or floating point graphics accelerators.
Field programmable gate array.
Oh, programmable gate. Okay. All right. So it's better than GPUs. probably by about 100 times. And then FPGAs gave way to ASICs, or what I just said, application-specific integrated circuits. And the only people that can make ASICs are large companies like Intel. They mentioned some others, but there's only about 3 or 4. Yeah, here we go. Intel, ASMC, Global Foundries. That's it. And you got to be super huge to be able to do an ASIC. But once you make it, then you can use it to mine Bitcoin and Monero like 100 times faster than anybody else can. And then if you have a giant server farm, then you're just going to kill it, and all the money's going to belong to the large corporations. So the Monero. Just like the banks. Yeah, that's right. Just like the banks. So the Monero idea is, well, can we democratize this a little bit and address that deficiency in Bitcoin? And we know that there's always going to be some inherent advantage to buying the bigger and better hardware, but let's make it a linear increase in productivity and not an exponential one, like going from a regular CPU to ASIC is. So that's how they designed the digital currency, and that's how they're doing it. And so it's an open source project. It's been going for 4 years now. Okay, and then so I started looking around and said, okay, well, how do you actually buy one of these things? And you go to coinmarketcap.com and you see, oh, okay, here's all the Monero markets, and there's no less than 78 markets where you can trade XMR, which is Monero, to Bitcoin, or XMR to euros, or let's see, XMR to Dash, or Dash to XMR, or let's see, there's US dollars is up here. So okay, right here, yeah, Bitfinex will do XMR to US dollars for you, but that is a professional trading site, and only the big boys play there. You got to have $10,000 just to get in the door there. And so, yeah, there's all these exchanges. All these things on the left right here are exchanges where you can trade these pairs right here: XMR to Bitcoin, XMR euros, XMR to Ethereum, blah blah blah. And then you go ahead and click on one of these things. Here's even Tux Exchange. So let's go ahead and click on that and see how liquid these markets are. Not very. Like, they just replaced it. There's so little traffic here for Emercoin as it's just a question mark. This is $1 traded the entire day. I lost it.
When he said he lost it, he really wasn't kidding.
Well, his battery was on like 2% or something right before that.
So, like, kind of the open secret in the coin industry is that the Chinese government is behind a whole bunch of it, because you essentially need electricity to be free on a lot of these to come out ahead. And the only people who have electricity for free are governments.
Right.
I'm a little sad he didn't hear my joke when he was ragging on his laptop for having 16 gigs of RAM. I said, 16? That's not even enough to run Chrome.
Apparently somebody's using my laptop as a Bitcoin miner.
I figured you just ran out of RAM trying to run Chrome with only 16 gigs.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. All right. So.
He didn't pay his Bitcoin.
Yeah. Right. Oh man. All right. So, man, I had a nice graph too. All right. So I'm gonna share. Oh wait. Hold on. Let me get this. Oh, yeah. Share the screen. Share. Here we go. Share. All right.
While you were briefly gone, Ben, I mentioned that it's kind of an open secret that some of the biggest miners is the Chinese government, because to really make hay financially, you need the electricity to be free, and the only people with free electricity are governments.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so that's, trying to mine is kind of that's kind of a dicey thing. I've never tried to do it, but true story. I gave a presentation about digital currency, specifically Bitcoin, 7 years ago at Colalug, and the price then was hovering between $1 and $10. And I told everybody, hey, I don't know if it's going to. It could be a penny tomorrow, and it could be $10 tomorrow. And both things happened on the very next day. So that just kind of shows the volatility that's inherent in this stuff. So yeah, absolutely. We did shoot $1,000 back then thrown into Bitcoin, and I certainly wouldn't be here. Actually, the sad thing is I probably would be here.
So I actually had Bitcoin at one time through a Coinbase wallet. And because the delay in the blockchain transaction is so long now, when you put in an order to sell, it may be a difference of $1,000 a unit by the time it actually transacts on the blockchain.
Yeah, see, and that's the kind of stuff that those finance guys in Wall Street, they take advantage of that 6 ways of Sunday. If you read a book called Flash Boys by Michael Lewis, he details the whole thing, how
Uh-oh.
He must have been running Chrome again.
transaction gets there just 1 millisecond faster than
Whoa. Start over, Ben. You vanished for like 30 seconds.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So Michael Lewis wrote a book called Flash Boys about the high frequency trading that Wall Street does, and it turns out that one of these guys built a fiber optic pipeline from Chicago and bored straight through mountains in New York to get to the exchange in New York, and with the sole purpose of getting transactions settled, like 1 millisecond faster than their competitors, and that's everything. If you can get there 1 millisecond faster than you on the market,
that's totally a thing. Most of the ISDN subscribers are stock traders because of the low latency on ISDN lines. They've even erected dedicated wireless hops through towers from Chicago to New York to make transactions from the Chicago exchange hit the New York exchange roughly 100 milliseconds faster.
Oh yeah. It is a great book. I mean, you just if you ever thought you could compete with those guys, just read that book, and then you'll be like, okay, yeah, I got to do it another way because I'm not going to beat them on speed. So all right, how do I share? Yeah. Okay. All right. So I got to show you this chart. It's so good. Yeah, CoinMarketCap. Here we go. Ta-da! All right, beautiful. Are y'all seeing this chart?
Affirmative.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the Bitcoin chart is in yellow, and the Monero chart is in green. And you will notice that, oh man, you can't. Yeah, Bitcoin has fared a lot better than Monero, but I can't. I want to draw a line here. See this line that's kind of under. I mean, it's just an imaginary line, but all these points kind of line up, kind of in a straight line going up and to the right. But look at Monero is even prettier than Bitcoin. I mean, this line just starts right here and then just keeps on going. And look what happened. Monero went from $500 in early January all the way down to $166. And yeah, of course, that is a lot more than what it was. Just 2 years ago, September 2016, it was what, $2.17. So it's had a huge run up, but they have cleared out a whole bunch of suckers that bought in January, buying the hype, and now it's resting right on a support line right here. Now, so it could dive right to 0 too if somebody finds something wrong with Monero. Yeah, I mean, my wife and other people in the room here are like, it's just vaporware, right? Well, I mean, that's true, but people trade money on it all the time, and cash is just paper in your wallet, and what can you really do with it except trade it for other stuff? So it's all what people think, what perceive the value of the money is, and right now there's been a bit of a clean out on the Bitcoin digital currency side, but oh man, I love that chart. Anyway, but I'm not recommending to buy or sell. I'll say again what I did 7 years ago. It could be a penny tomorrow. It could be $500, and maybe the same thing will happen. Both things will happen. The next day. So anyway, so that's my short little presentation on how I get interested about things. And Howard Chu is definitely a guy I follow on Twitter. I think you should follow him too. He's got some great comments like Intel inside equals Intel inside equals idiot outside. Which is insulting a whole lot of people, but I still thought it was funny. So anyway, does anybody have any experience with Monero besides this cursory look that I just gave? No. Okay. All right. So yeah, they claim to have a better way to democratize digital currency that's better than Bitcoin, and the jury's still out on that. We'll see, but it's good open source project, and the developers got cool nicknames, so maybe that'll help them. But yeah, I love the comments about Nazis on the Bitcoin talk. All right.
Like the last time, were you there when on the Kulczar, someone was mentioning that I don't know who inserted some illegal stuff into Bitcoin blockchain, stuff like child pornography or something.
Oh yeah.
Even it's stuff that even if you have it and you don't know you have it, you're still guilty for having it.
Yeah, because it's distributed.
Because it's a distributed database. So it's like if you own a Bitcoin, chances are you own part of that. Yeah, child pornography. So
child porn is part of your blockchain.
So it's like, that's kind of like one of the things that could kill cryptocurrencies. Because all you need is someone inserting something like that in there, and it's basically that's it. Like everybody that owns that is guilty of.
Well, they have some way you can extract.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it's part of the blockchain. I mean, once it's part of the blockchain, you can't just take it out.
You can't take it out, but you can still do.
Yeah.
That's a valid concern, but like, there's a book by a lawyer written called 3 Felonies a Day, and it's how the average American commits 3 felonies every single day. So, like, if the government wants to get you, they'll find something. Remember, they didn't get Al Capone for being a mafia mob boss; they got it for tax evasion.
Yeah. Right. That's it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of how it is always, even now. It's like, they yell that we're, investigating someone for something, and it always ends up that, they find some other charges during the investigation that you go get charged with.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I want to say about Monero is that they plan to do hard forks twice a year, and they have done them. And the hard forks are what cause the ASICs and the FPGAs to be harder to use, and doesn't make it exponentially easier for the big guys to mine as fast as everybody else does. So twice a year they make it a lot harder to mine Monero with an ASIC than it would have been 6 months earlier. So
what did they change like the algorithm? Yeah.
Well, they actually freeze the blockchain and say, okay, if you're using, like, say, Monero 12 is the current client right now. So they've had 12 versions of Monero. So they have hard forked, 12 times now, or 11 times. Every time they do the hard fork, you can't use the old client anymore. You got to switch over to the new client, and okay, this is the new sheriff in town. So,
yeah, but my only thing with that is like, so you basically have to nonstop move your coins every 6 months because otherwise you lose them. Like where
You have to be.
Yeah, you still get to keep your coins. It's just that to get new ones, you gotta. Yeah.
And to be able to rebuild.
Okay, so I mean, it kind of makes sense then. Someone would actually have to have CPU power to be able to change the computation.
You have to be software to be agile enough to keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's like CPU or GPU power.
Well, PLA will do that too.
Yeah. So
building an ASIC.
Yeah, you don't want to be you don't want to be building an ASIC.
Yeah, but again, they're doing hard forks every 6 months. Being an open source project, all you have to do is monitor what the new release is going to be on, and by the time they come out, you can have your ASIC ready to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That only works with your Intel.
Yeah.
You can have a lab devoted to.
Well, I mean, are you pulling it away from China? I mean, seriously, that they probably have people printing silicon by hand.
Yeah,
and those little.
Well, there's also. There's also a security concern with doing hard forks of the blockchain because, well, okay, now there's 2 blockchains. There's version 11 and there's version 12, and technically you could spend your Monero twice, once in 11 and once in 12, and they go to great lengths saying why you should not do this because it's going to screw everything up. But it seems like bad actors are going to be bad actors. So there's got to be some kind. There's got to be some way they can mitigate that.
Yeah, it's like a downtown time or something.
No.
If a system can be exploited or gained in any way, someone will do it.
Yeah, and Wall Street will lead the charge. No doubt about that. Okay, so there's no other. Have any other questions? Upstate Carolina Linux User Group.
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you all for coming. I guess we did run out the clock. So, all right, I'll try to get this video published by tomorrow. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
SoutheastLinuxFest.org. See you later.
All right, bye.
Oh, off in the corner right there.
That one?